So, wow, right?
Wow.
He's Chris Halicke. I'm Dejan Kovacevic. We're here from DK Pittsburgh Sports, and we're here in Baltimore, where yet another three-point game, yet another Kenny Pickett and Najee Harris carrying the team down the field at the end, even though everyone was unhappy with the offense all day long. And the defense gets a stop and a Minka interception, and what else? There was some other significance to this?
Running the ball.
No, you don't get away with that. This dude was the whole way down here to Baltimore.
Playoffs.
He's checking every score
they are
to see.
In the playoff hunt. Everything happened today. The Dolphins lost, the Jets lost, and the Steelers won. So that means they go into Week 18 still fighting for a playoff spot after a 2-6 start to the season.
The final score of the game, looking at it over there to remind myself, was 16-13. One thing you never have to look to remind yourself or research is whether or not these teams are separated by 3 points. There's nothing like it in professional sports. Before we even get to this game, this streak now, 18 times they've been to 3 points or less in the last decade and a half. It's unbelievable.
It really is. It's like there's just something about this rivalry in particular and why it separates it, why it's different than any other rivalry in the NFL. Because these two teams have a lot of the same. They're just very.
Their philosophies, cultures. They tried their own fake renegade here with doing. I didn't even know they were doing. When did they start doing that? Like the Enter Sandman.
And they played it like 3 times. I think that's their problem.
And these people are like screaming exit. Like, come on, man.
Yeah,
it didn't work at all.
No, it didn't. But it's so like you said, the consistency, the similarities that they have in philosophy, everything, it off the field, on the field, it always plays out this way. And I think that's why this rivalry in particular is such a special rivalry, and it's good for the Steelers when they need a win to keep whatever hopes alive, whether you believe they can actually do anything or not. They believe they can do it, and I think that's the most important thing for this team this year.
I think, one of the things that I've been saying for really a couple months now, ever since they were 2-6, was get better. Okay, progress, principally as an offense. And I don't think anybody can dispute that they've done that. They're not particularly great in the red zone, to say the least.
No.
I still feel like they're rowing upstream with the offensive play calling.
Yeah. But
when you get to this kind of crunch time, and you start over there at the 20-yard line with 4 minutes left.
4-minute offense,
and they showed patience. They continued to run the ball.
Yes.
Okay?
Continued.
And no, I meant continued choosing to run the ball,
right.
Even where the clock was and whatever else. They kept moving. They threw a couple of times, gasp, downfield.
And look what happened.
and look what happened. Steven Sims makes a play. Pat Freiermuth makes a play. And they work their way down toward the goal line. They keep running. Before we get to the touchdown, I want to ask you your thoughts on Najee Harris and the game that he had. Because he was next.
We were talking about it before we even went into the locker room. It might be his best game he's played. I don't know about maybe on the stat sheet or anything like that, but it was the constant. He was never getting pushed backward. Whenever he would be stopped 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, he'd get 4. When he'd get stopped at 4 yards, he'd get 6. It was always moving forward, and that set the tone. Even though they weren't scoring, they continued to move the ball, and they did it with the running game.
And it's not right it's not right to mention Najee and the running game without identifying 2 other facets in that. One was the offensive line. Who, I can tell you from talking to these guys, they feel like that was their best game, certainly when it comes to running the ball. And the other, of course, being Jaylen Warren, who looked like 6 waiting to happen throughout the night. When we come back, the touchdown. Welcome back to Baltimore. He's Chris Halicke. I'm Dejan Kovacevic. Steelers 16, Ravens 13, only because of the play we're about to describe. And I got to tell you, as the one tasked with writing about this play, I had to work in that room just to find out what was the intention.
Right.
It ended up, obviously, a 10-yard pass from Kenny Pickett to Najee Harris.
On third down.
On third down. 3rd and 8.
Yeah.
But it ended up involving so much more.
It really did. I mean, one thing that Kenny has really had to do this year is when he has to scramble, because this obviously has to happen, it's keeping your eyes downfield. It's trying to find somebody open and not just doing what he was doing earlier in the year, which was, okay, it's good to throw it away, but it was happening just so often. He wasn't finding guys. And it's happened more and more, and obviously it happened on that touchdown pass where he goes down and he sees Najee go up the sideline, and then he hits him perfectly in stride.
Now, you're going to take this and hold this on me here. That's the end zone where this happened, all right? I'm going to tell you, based on the accounts that I got from inside that locker room as to how this actually went. Kenny scrambles, as Chris just told you, to his left. He's pretty good and always has been, including at Pitt, at throwing across his body. So he has no issues with moving to his left. However, as Kenny told me, his initial target was Deontay Johnson, who was over all the way in the right corner. And you know who didn't know this? Deontay Johnson, as I just asked him. He had no idea, but they ganged up on him. Then he was supposed to look for George Pickens, who's over in the middle, like over by the goalposts. No dice. Couldn't see him. And he had to start moving. So he goes over to his left, and as he's doing that, now he sees Steven Sims in the back of the end zone. And Sims also didn't think it was coming for him, because I checked with Sims as well. So what's left? Yeah, you saw Kenny do this to Najee to have him go into the end zone? Well, guess what? He did, but he never saw Kenny do that. Najee told me, he said, that's just a play that we practice on the scramble. That's how it's supposed to go. So that's where we are right now, Chris. And that's how you win games, because it can't always get scripted, can it?
No, it can't. And I think that's one of the big things that we can take away from a game like this and games like last week, is that Kenny is a rookie and he has a lot of room to grow. There were plenty of examples of that tonight, but getting to doing that in that moment is huge for a rookie quarterback, and there's nothing more you can ask him to do.
The value of what Kenny Pickett did on this final drive is outsized. And I mentioned, and I used that exact term with Mike Tomlin and asked if he agreed with that, and he did. Mm-hmm. He said, when it gets to the big moments and then Tomlin looked at me kind of dismissively and says, but we knew that about him because he was growing up right next to us next door.
Yeah. And it's really, I mean, we just did the top 25 on DK Pittsburgh Sports.
Top 25 stories of the year.
Yeah, top 25.
Good thing this one came the next year.
Yeah.